because we've also recognized that event management and setup is not our core mandate. Our core mandate is marketing communication. We also recognize that getting the number of hosted buyers that we bring for the event and the media and the exhibitors, it's also a great opportunity for us to showcase the country beyond just the pre-expo tours. So maybe another area for us that we'll be looking at is maybe we could look at an alternative destination within Kenya at some point, maybe every 2 years or 3 years, to hold this event. Digital, I'm glad that you recognize that digital is an area that we are giving a lot of focus and importance to. We are trying to increase the number of technology organizations that are part of this event. This year we've got Expedia, we've got Safaricom, just to name a few. We've had quite a number of engagements on digital, the digital marketing. We had one yesterday with Damien Cook. I believe there was another one today, at 12 noon. I believe today's was quite successful. I was told that it was a packed house, which is a good sign. So the digital space is an area that we want to make sure that we use technology to improve the event. We use technology to ensure that exhibitors and the buyers and the media are able to quickly communicate the benefits and the learnings on our destination. So using more of the digital space as well as looking at potentially maybe a different location every 2 or 3 years for the event is something that we are considering. Yeah.
In fact, your digital approach, what we heard today, puts you at the cutting edge of the industry.
Absolutely.
It certainly, keeps Kenya tourism ahead of the puck.
Absolutely. Today, Wolfgang, your technology is key. Using different digital and social platforms is important, because you're talking to a very new sort of traveler, for us, who is not looking at traditional communication tools and channels. They're looking at digital stuff. They're looking at images. Today it's not just about how you communicate on, say, Facebook. Instagram in itself, does create a lot of traction, because pictures speak a lot louder than words. So being a part of that is very, very important for us as a tourism board, because again, to achieve our mandate of marketing communication, you've got to make sure that you're communicating using the right tools, not forgetting the traditional tools, because they exist, but obviously we're moving more away from those and talking to the different generation of traveler today. And if you're out of the digital space, then you're really potentially out of sight, out of mind.
Well, the younger generation speaks a different language.
Absolutely.
Really. And,
absolutely.
It was up to you to learn that extra language and communicate with
it. And we have a very young team on the Kenya Tourism Board, in terms of the marketing, the regional marketing managers, the digital team. They're a young team, so that's very important, because that young team is able to speak that language for that is being spoken by the younger traveler. So that's important, and really we are shifting towards a more market research led organization, where we are doing things based on the market and the research, and also digital. That digital space is important for us. Damien Cook is supporting us quite a bit in terms of as a consultant, in terms of bringing us to that digital space, and so we're quite excited with what's coming up moving forward as a tourism board.
And in terms of cross-event partnerships, I heard, I think, I'm not sure whether you're participating in ITB Asia, but in terms of increasing the brand footprint of MKTV, especially towards worldwide travel trade events, as well as down in Southeast Asia and Asia. Do you have any plans of cross-industry partnerships to give more exposure to MKTV?
Yeah, we're always looking at partnerships. Partnerships are great, because, as you say, it improves or increases your footprint. It increases your, the awareness of your different shows. As at now, we're focusing on how we can grow the awareness of MKTE within the Africa region. For us, that's important. We want to make sure that we solidify that. We want it to go beyond just being the largest travel trade expo in East Africa, and we want to make it a must-go event in Africa as a whole. So, of course, we have plans all the time on strategic partnerships with different expos, global expos. We do participate in them. We participate in, World Travel Market and ITB and Indaba and the rest. But we want to really focus on growing the footprint of Magical Kenya Travel Expo in Africa. Last year, we had about 130 exhibitors. This year we have about 190. So for us, that's great encouragement in terms of it is actually picking up in terms of its traction, in terms of its interest. So really that's our focus now. We want to make sure that, we can run before we can walk before we start trying to run. But absolutely, strategic partnerships are important. And in fact, taking on onshore marketing, onshore solutions is one of our strategies in terms of working with an organization that actually does have a strong database that can, also guide us in terms of the strategic partnerships that we need to be in to build on the traction for MKTE. So yeah, absolutely, we're always open to strategic partnerships. Yeah, anything that helps us, communicate our mandate is something that we're always open to considering. Yeah.
Can I ask you some product-related questions?
Absolutely.
Also? Some of the tour operators from the German-speaking markets, they asked me about this, and I'm not sure about it. Is there a lack of air access to Mombasa? Is that something you're aware of, and why is it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a shortage. I wouldn't say a lack of, because from the German market, Condor is flying into Mombasa, and in fact they've just increased their flights. But if you're talking about from a schedule perspective, there's definitely opportunities to open up Mombasa for international schedule carriers as opposed to charter. And that's something that the Ministry of Tourism is engaging the Ministry of Transport on a regular basis to try and facilitate and get more international scheduled airlines flying directly into Mombasa. Currently, Turkish Airlines, has a flight into Mombasa direct from Istanbul. Ethiopian Airlines has a flight direct into Mombasa from Addis. These are great airlines because they do have great networks, around the world. But of course, we're a long-haul destination, and flight accessibility is very important for us, particularly to the key tourism destinations. So yes, definitely, it's very important. Travel and transport are very closely related. So the ministry is talking on a regular basis. But I'm happy to say that into Nairobi, we are continually growing the number of airlines that are coming in. We've seen Lufthansa come back to Kenya after many years. Air France is coming back next year. Other airlines like Royal Air Maroc, Turkish, Oman Air, Emirates have increased their frequency from 2 flights a day to 3 flights a day. Kenya Airways, our national carrier, is still got a very strong network, particularly in the region. So I think from Nairobi, and the connectivity to Mombasa is good. Not only does Kenya Airways do that connectivity, there's other airlines. Now there's Madaraka Express, which is a great scenic train ride between Nairobi and Mombasa, 4.5 hours.
I was hoping to get information on this area.
Yeah, I think Kenya Railways Corporation is here.
They are not.
Oh, they're not here. Okay, I saw a stand. So they've actually not turned up. Yeah, but we have information as a tourism board. Yeah, no, we're happy to give you that information as a tourism board.
And the other question I have is the upgrading of product in terms of safari vehicles. I believe the president has first time in Kenya.
Oh, right. Okay. No, absolutely. Yeah. Well, the government has given a VAT exemption, to tour operators on tour vehicles, on 4-wheel drives specifically, because we want to transition our safari experience away from the minibus experience, which is what has been there in the past, and upgrading it to a 4-wheel drive experience. Minibuses and non-4-wheel drives are good for city transfers. So whether you're doing a city tour or whether you're doing airport transfers, they work very well for that. But I think for the safari, people do want the 4-wheel drive. They want the Jeep. They want the open top. That's where the safari world is today. So the government has introduced or has waived VAT on safari vehicles, 4-wheel drives, which is great. And a lot of tour operators have invested in that. And
it's an incentive.
It's absolutely
not a law.
No, it's an incentive. It's an incentive, and there are numerous other incentives that the government has rolled out to support the tourism sector. Beyond just the tour operators. There's the charter incentive program. There's the waiver of visa fees for children under the age of 16. There's the reduction in park fees. There's the waiver on VAT on park fees. So the government has prioritized tourism, and they're continuing to prioritize tourism. Because tourism is a main economic driver. It's a main foreign exchange earner. It's a main employer. And I think the government recognizes that, and that's why we events like MKTE are great for us as a tourism board and also as a destination.
The last question I
No, absolutely, yeah.
Arriving here, I was taken on a safari by African Quest. It was immaculate. It was really wonderful, and I had a lot of experience with safaris, but this was great.
Excellent.
And all the people were great, except for I was overcharged on a stop by I don't know how many thousand Kenyan shillings, buying a souvenir, and I was given on another occasion I was cheated in being given Tanzania shillings.
Oh, no.
So obviously there's a problem in this field because otherwise it wouldn't happen to me in 3 days.
Yeah.
And I'm not an inexperienced traveler.
Yeah, no, 100%. Okay, that's very unfortunate.
Face this problem because taxi drivers and people dealing on the street, they should know.
Absolutely.
That's not the way. It's not a business concept.
No, absolutely. I think, I guess the global concept of buyer beware exists generally, but it's important that those areas are addressed. I think we are definitely engaging the curious suppliers, a lot more to make sure that they also appreciate what damage and what benefits they can gain from tourism. We are engaging with the taxi owners associations in Nairobi and in Mombasa in particular, I think there's been a lot of change. There's been a lot of appreciation of the importance of tourism. Sadly, like in any industry, you do find a few rogues here and there, but I don't think they actually define the industry itself. I think the curious suppliers, you've seen that we've invited them to be a part of it. So for us, it's very much about saying we're not just saying that you're a part of tourism, but we're walking the talk. Come and set up, come and show what you have to offer. And I think that makes them feel that they're inclusive. It's an inclusive approach to the sectors that support tourism, and definitely taxi drivers, tour vehicles, curio suppliers are very much a part of the tourism product. So thanks for that feedback. I hope you've met Tasneem and Tahir. You have met them. Yeah. Okay. You give them some feedback generally on their safari. Okay, fantastic. Tasneem has been around for many years, so yeah, she's a good tourism supporter. Yes, sir. Yes. Hi, how are you? At least now we meet in the light. Yesterday we met in the dark.
Exactly.
At the event.
Light is always fine.
Yeah.
You spoke about the connectivity and your strategic partners.
Yes.
Which is very encouraging. But do you get a step when you hear about the problems with Kenya Airways, with respect to management issues that are coming up, flights are not flying and all that? Do you get the step, and have you been engaging them in terms of those issues?
To be honest, I mean, I can't really comment on behalf of KQ and what issues they're facing. Yes, as a Kenyan, not so much from a tourism board perspective. We are hoping that Kenya Airways does get through their current challenges. The government is a major stakeholder, and the government is taking this recovery process very seriously. Their board, which is chaired by a former chair of the Kenya Tourism Board, Michael Joseph, and also the pioneer of M-Pesa, which is the money transfer system with Safaricom. He's definitely very much a part of trying to restructure and relook at how Kenya Airways works. But I think what's important for us is our strategic partnership with Kenya Airways as a Kenya Tourism Board, which has enabled us to sort of communicate our brand globally. We've recently launched the Magical Kenya Dreamliner, which is branded Magical Kenya. The interiors of the Dreamliners all have their headrests branded Magical Kenya. We've got videos on the destination on all flights. We are working with them in terms of promotions in their key source markets, particularly in the emerging markets of Africa and Asia. And there's many other things that are in the pipeline. They've got a new managing director who's been very engaging. So for us as a tourism board, we are confident that our strategic partnership with Kenya Airways will yield fruit. Because as I said, we are a long to mid-haul destination, and flight connectivity is important. Sadly, road infrastructure in Africa doesn't exist. It would be great if somebody could get into a car from Accra and drive to Nairobi, but the road infrastructure just doesn't exist. But I'm very confident that our marketing partnership, our strategic partnership with Kenya Airways will yield fruit, and indeed it is. If we see the growth of numbers from our emerging markets in Africa and also in Asia, those visitors are coming in by air, and the airline that majority of them are using is Kenya Airways. So it's paying off. Yeah.